so much for joining us.
Hey, just real quick before I forget, I don't know if you guys have been to Ranger Stop in Atlanta. It's a Power Ranger themed convention, but I've got free weekend passes if you guys want. At the end, just come grab them, or they'll be at my table. I just didn't want to forget. They gave them to me, and they're like, "Will you pass some of these out?" And I will definitely forget if I don't say something now. But yeah, thanks for being here. Thanks for waiting. It's a lot farther from the table to here than I thought it was going to be. It took like forever to get here.
I think it's literally a mile. So.
It's a good distance. But I appreciate you guys for being here.
Well,
nice cosplay. Wow. I see some Vash out there too, and of course Ichigo. That's great. I think I see a Nero out there too, huh? Yeah?
I mean, speaking of Power Rangers, so that was literally your first role.
Power Rangers, yes. Well, my first role was me at Taco Bell and Subway. And then it was Power Rangers, so.
It's a step up.
A little step up. I was a sandwich artist at Subway. That's what they called us, sandwich artists. They still do? Do you work there? No, you just see, does it say it on the shirt?
So, I mean, you got the role because you were a martial artist before that.
Yeah.
And I read somewhere that you actually started teaching yourself as a child by watching.
I watched Kung Fu theater, Bruce Lee and Jackie Chan, and then I would go outside and try those things.
Okay, so you didn't
I
break
would
your mom's
flip off
faces.
no, I mean, my brother and I would definitely go at it. But yeah, I mean, that's all part of growing up, right? You jump off of roofs and try to flip and all that, and then I didn't break anything till years later, so yeah.
Okay, cool. So well then, what are some of your favorite movies?
Favorite movies?
Yeah, or favorite kung fu. Or
Kung fu movies? Martial art movies? Okay, let's see. Way of the Dragon, Enter the Dragon. There's so many. Shaolin versus Llama. If anyone knows that, I will give you 19 free autographs. None of you guys know that. Shaolin versus Llama is like one of those. The name's probably different in other places. Jade Fist, Crystal Fist, that's another one that had Billy Chong. This is me geeking out on the stuff that I used to grow up on.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I mean, I'm right there with you. I think a lot of us at some point in our lives, especially as kids, you have those Sunday movies.
Yeah, of course.
But yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah. And then when you try to watch them now, you're like, dang, that's pretty cheesy. That's like some of you guys are watching Power Rangers, the original stuff, huh? You're like, ew. But there's something that's special about it though at the same time.
Yeah.
It makes you feel comfortable.
It makes you want to move. It makes you want to just do things, it made you want to get into martial arts.
Yeah, well, I just wanted to flip. I wanted to be able to flip and kick stuff.
So is that how the Adam audition went? You were just
basically, yeah. I mean, well, then at that point, I'd been training in Shaolin Kung Fu, and then my instructor was the one that he saw the ad in the paper that was looking for new Rangers, and he's like, you should go give it a shot, So he helped me put together a little routine, and I went and I flipped and kicked.
Okay, cool. So was it the first? You got it on the first audition. They were just like, oh my gosh.
There was a callback audition. It was the same audition. It was the first audition I ever went to.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it was. You went in, and there's thousands of people there, and they would go through us, and they would go, all right, you could stay, the rest you go, and they would kind of filter us out first through whatever look they were going for, and then they asked us to show us what you can do, and at that time, you had to be a martial artist or a dancer or a gymnast, and I was a martial artist. I could do flips, so I was a little more acrobatic.
Yeah.
And then so we'd show off that stuff, and then they gave us a monologue, and then eventually there was callbacks. It's a long story, but short version is yes.
Yeah. So, and that was also when you added the Young in your name to...
That was during the show. Actually, if you watch the first few episodes of Power Rangers, my name changes.
Oh.
And it goes to Yong Bosch because they're like, your name doesn't sound Asian enough. And I was like, okay. He's like, what's your mom's name? It was Young. I was like, okay. Well, it's actually, she goes by Tina. They named her Tina when she came here. And then, but her real name was Young. And so, yeah.
Oh, okay, cool.
They were like,
So
okay,
it's
you are now Johnny Yong Bosch.
So that was their decision, not like your...
Yeah, no, I was just going to use my name. So they gave me a stage name so I'd sound more Asian.
Oh.
And so people go like, that's the Asian guy.
How did that make... Like, I mean, especially...
I didn't care. I mean, at that time, it was just like, whatever. You know, I was like, yeah, I am. I'm the Asian guy, you know. Or the half Asian guy. In the mornings is much more Asian.
Oh my God.
No, half of me is offended.
Okay, well then the first anime role you had was also huge, like in Vash.
Trigun was the first,
Did you know that it was going to be so big?
No. No. I had no idea. I just knew it was a really fun show for me. It was a really cool, fun show for me. And, you know, in Power Rangers, I called myself the background ranger, you know, because, like, you know, you'd have Tommy or the Pink Ranger, and they'd be in the front, and I'd be back here. That's about all I did. Eventually, they gave me some stuff here or there, but for me, I was just like, when are we going to do the fight scene? And so yeah, it's doing Trigun. It was scary for a couple of reasons. First off, I don't want to tell, this may be a long story, but basically, like, you know, like when you first do your voicemail message and you hear it, and you're like, ugh, that's what I sound like, you know, when you start hearing it. And that's the way, I didn't like the way my voice sounded. And plus, I'll go into a whole other story, but I thought I sounded like a girl. Because there's one day when I was younger throwing the football with my friend in the front yard, and this kid across the street, he was like a 5-year-old or something, 6-year-old, came out and started throwing rocks at me and my friend. I was like, what's going on here? And then he went back inside, and we were like, what the heck was that about? And then his sister comes out, and it's like, how dare you throw rocks at my brother? And I was like, what? Hey, we didn't do anything. We were just playing football. And he started throwing rocks at us. She was like, oh yeah, well you sound like a girl. And she went back inside. So I always thought I sounded like a girl. So anyways, very insecure about my voice. And I became super shy, and I did not talk at all. So being like on a show that was like all voice and my character was super scary. It was a thing that I had to get over. I was shaking going through it because I'm like, oh, what am I going to sound like? And so I couldn't watch it. I couldn't listen to it because it bothered me. You know, like I could not. So I was just like, you know, I'm just going to commit to it and, you know, do the best I can and hope that it sounds right, because I needed the job and I really liked the character. And so it's like a weird thing for me to overcome during that.
It's interesting because it's like your normal speaking voice is not as high, so it's
not as high, but still high. Sort of sound like a girl. It's not that high, but you do kind of sound like a girl, John.
No. I mean, it's just, I mean, because like, was it partially compression that made it a little higher, or were you?
No, it was because I was like, I didn't say anything. I was just like apologizing, you know, to this girl that was across the street, and she just wanted to be mean, and said something mean, and it made me super insecure. You know, we all have that. We all have something like that, or some jerk or bully says something or does something, and then it's now something that you have to live with or something you have to overcome. And so it was something I had to overcome, you know.
Now joke's on her.
Exactly. And now I do voiceover. So I've only voiced one girl.
Okay.
2, actually. I did.
Wait.
Pop Team Epic. Yeah, and then in Trigun I played a grandma behind a door. It's pretty terrible, but it's in there.
So, like, what do you get more? Do you get people coming up to you doing the can't do it.
11 piece?
Yeah.
Sometimes, yeah.
But do you get that, or do you get like it's morphing time more?
Oh, yeah, I get that too. I mean, usually people don't go up there and they don't go like it's a morph time there. It's like their watch or their cell phone does the you know, and then it's like, I say it. Usually I'm the one that says it's morph time.
Nice.
Yeah.
Do you like organically come across people with that ringtone and you're just like...
Oh yeah, I hear it like wherever and I'm like, is somebody following me? But yeah, I mean, it was a big show. Yeah.
Oh, definitely. Okay, so what do you think would be the most impactful role that you've had?
I don't know. They all impact, you know. Like I could think something is super small or not even know about it. For example, I had this game slide across my table a few years ago. And I looked at it and I was like, and I was trying to pronounce it, I was like, Dangan Ram, what is that? So one thing that you guys don't realize is a lot of the games, and even some anime, but a lot of the games, the anime you usually find out, the games, a lot of times are super top secret. So they don't tell you the name. It just said like DG2, you know, and so I don't really know what I'm working on, you know, and part of that might be because they don't want you to say what it is, and you know, because then you get in trouble. And so I didn't even know what I was working on, you know, and this game slides across my table. I'm like, dang it, Robert, I don't know this one. And I was like, I'm sorry, I'm not in that. And they're like, no, you're in that. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure I know what I'm in. That's not me. And they're like, oh really? And then they pull up on YouTube and they start playing my voice. And I'm like, oh cool, what's your name? And then I had to go look it up. I was like, what was that? And then I realized, oh, okay, so that's that one. That was, because a lot, again, like I said, sometimes it just says Namco game, and you don't know what you're working on. So that was one of those. Then I was like, oh, that's the one that Tony Oliver directed. It was the one with the mystery, and it was fun. It was cool. And I just remember, and then it was like, oh, it's like all these flashbacks started coming back. I'm like, oh, now I remember. That's that one. Now I knew what it was, but I didn't know the title of it.
Wow.
So yeah.
So I mean, well, did you know that you were working on Devil May Cry when you worked on that?
Yes, that I did know. Okay.
Good. Okay. It's like it's kind of a big deal.
No, that was kind of a big deal. They flew me to Japan for that. I did the motion capture, so that's where you wear the suit. That one is one where it's like, it's a little more me. You know, I got to make so it's a script. You know, whereas I work on like some anime, even some of the games, but like they've already done it, you know, and then basically I'm going to localize it. So if they've already done it in Japan, and then I'm going to do the English version, just the voice, right? But DMC was different. They flew me out there because I'm a martial artist and a voice actor, and they wanted people that had more. They didn't want a Japanese guy to do, because the mannerisms are different. The way we move are very different.
Yeah.
You know, in fact, there's some stuff where Ruben, who does Dante, he brought me over. He's like, Johnny, I'm trying to explain to them that some of these stances, like when your character's idle, he's like, some of these don't translate. And so he's showing me, there's one where Dante was doing this. And he was like, we don't do that in America. And then I was like, that's correct, we do not. That looks, I don't know. I remember, like, the way it looked to me was like, when I was younger, and there's a gorilla that I was like shouting at, and they was throwing poop at us, and I was like, that's what that reminded me of. And they squat different from us, so there's like certain things like, so that's why they brought us out, is so that it would feel, I guess, not American, but it's something that the world would recognize easier than some of these other things. Now it's a little different because, you know, the culture, we all understand it now. But yeah, so, and then again, so that was something where it was just a script, it wasn't already animated, so I got to make choices. I got to, I'm going to punch the ground here, I'm going to scream, I'm going to throw here, or whatever, so I got to do all of that, and then, you know, it became what it was, so. Yeah, so that one, yes, I did know that was me. And I knew I was working on that show. But it's all super top secret. I knew all the things. I knew who my father was in that first game in DMC4.
Wow.
So I knew all of that.
Yeah.
But it was only hinted at in that game. And so I was like, why are we only hinting at it? Because it's such a huge thing. So I was bummed whenever they were like did a reboot, and I was like, I guess we're never getting to it. But thankfully they did do 5, you know, and we got to see a bit of that. So hopefully we get a 6 within like 10 years, hopefully.
Hopefully.
You guys got to let them know that you want more.
Yeah, I mean, like, you did the mocap for that, and the moves in that game are so cool. Like they're just like you're flipping all over the place.
There was a lot of wire rigging. I didn't do any wire rigging. They had the stunt guys for that stuff, you know.
Yeah, I was gonna ask.
They would do a lot of the wire rigging and that, you know, ahead of time. Then of course I did whatever else.
Oh, okay, cool. All right. So it wasn't as taxing as.
Nah, it wasn't. Although I screwed up my knee the first game. Yeah.
Oh, no.
Well, it was Kitty. I had to carry her, like over and over, and then I had to drop off of a thing of boxes and hold her, and then stand up, and then from a kneeling position. I kept doing that, you know, for a few hours, from a kneeling position, standing up, and then walking or turning. And then I felt fine, and we were done with that sequence. And then, of course, it was like when I got up from a chair to walk over there, and my knee went whoop whoop. It was like, nope, psych. And I was like, that wasn't supposed to happen.
You didn't tear your ACL, did you?
No, I just, there's torn meniscus and whatnot. Yeah. You know, good stuff.
Yeah. Okay, so would you rather do that all over again or have to scream as Brawly for like an hour?
That's tricky. Because Broly does come with a little more baggage. So I think if I had to have a choice of those two, I would definitely go and pop my knee out again. Broly, it's like every time, it's like, how much more screaming can I do? You know, it's like I got maybe 2 hours of screaming, and then, but they know, because all the characters do that.
Yeah.
And so they usually regulate it, and, you know, or they adjust for screaming, and, you know, they've been doing it a lot longer, even before me, so they know that this is around the point where we're probably going to lose the voice actor's voice, you know. And so they know what they're doing. Sometimes, yeah. But I do sometimes like to start off with some of the screaming, because it helps me get into the texture of the character, you know. So,
okay.
yeah.
Because you also took over the role for that character.
Mm-hmm.
What was the process like when you were trying to at least like insert some of your own?
That was very complicated because, as I said, that one comes with a little bit of baggage. I got a call from someone I knew at Toei that had brought up the question, would you be interested in the role of Broly? And I was like, I think somebody else already has that role. What's going on? So I didn't know any drama, anything that was happening. So I had to kind of investigate and contact people and see what was happening. And then it was also like, well, what do I do with the character? What would I do with the character? And so I asked to see some of the animation. And they didn't ask for an audition. I just laid down certain things that I felt like. So in the first movie, the Broly movie, I did a few. I actually dubbed the whole thing on my own, but that version you'll probably never see. So I dubbed it, and then I just pulled some of those clips and I sent it to them, and I was like, all right, so this is probably where I'd sit with the character comfortably, and if you guys are happy with it, you know, and they approved it. But yeah, so it's tricky because there's fans that like the original Seiyu, and there's fans that like Vic, and there's fans that like some of the older stuff. I think that was maybe done in Canada. And so I got to look at all these different pieces and go like, well, I can't really just do my own thing. I have to go like, well, what can I take from each of these characters and then try to blend it into something that I can then hopefully kind of take it somewhere else. And it just depends on how much more of Broly we see. And if we see more of him, you know, then I'll get to take him to wherever I feel like it, you know, or hopefully. But I'm also listening to the fans. I'm like, well, what do you guys like, you know? And I've asked, you know, even earlier on, what are you guys expecting out of this character? And I didn't fully understand the world. I just knew that there's a point where it's like, this is like him hulking out, but I didn't know how different that character needed to be, you know, because now, you know, well, if you look, I mean, there's like different versions of, there's almost alternate universes, you know, I'm like, do I need to pay attention to that one then? You know, because we're not really, now that it's canon, the new stuff, then I should be allowed to kind of create a thing, but because certain fans want what was even that alternate version in this new canon, I gotta like figure out how to
how to
navigate that. So that's where it's tricky.
Yeah. I mean, it's a lot of
There's a lot of love and hate. You know, there's a lot of people that are like, oh, we like what you did, and there's other people that are like, I hate it. I don't want you. You know.
And they say this to your
and it's
face.
like I'm just trying to, you know, be respectful of the character and the role and all the parties involved, and coming in from the outside, just try to do something nice.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Gosh, there's so many like different facets to it too. When you read some of your scripts, like, do you kind of try to predict, like, for instance, as Lelouch as a character makes it's kind of like the road to hell is paved with good intentions. In his case, like, he is trying to do something so good, but like everything backfires so much. Do you ever find yourself reading and like kind of trying to anticipate where this is going, like what?
Well, something that a lot of people don't understand is, especially with anime and a lot of the games, the only one that ever was different was DMC, but you don't get the script ahead of time.
Oh,
So you don't know where it's going, usually. Like you can't read it and then memorize it and then show up and be ready to go. It's all cold reading. It's like you're going to a fresh audition of something you have no idea what's happening. So as soon as you go in there, you've got to ask your questions. You gotta know, like, all right, what's happening here? Where did I come from? Where am I gonna end up? What's this character gonna be like at the end? And hopefully, your director will give you some answers and some clues to that. You know, or hopefully you can pick up on it. Or like me, you cheat and you, before you go in, you try to like find as much as you can online. You know, and so they're usually like, wow, you really got that. Okay, you understood that. Okay, good. I'm like, I cheated. I read the manga before we got into this. Just like Demon Slayer, I'm like, I had to find out what's gonna happen. So I need to know, for me personally, you know, so that I can kind of like maybe build like this imaginary arc of where I need to go. So that one was different though. That one was, again, I had no idea of complete direction, but I had a great director. Gave me some clues, would not let me know exactly what was happening in the future. Wanted it to be kind of more organic for it. So as soon as things were happening that day, so that the emotion was fresh and original, that's what he wanted. And so I did not get to find out all of those things. Now, I did watch the Spanish version, though, on YouTube, just because I needed to find out what was going on a little bit. But, yeah.
Okay, cool. So, I mean, and then you brought up Demon Slayer. So, did you read the manga?
I did. I had needed to know what was going to happen.
Are you excited for where your character's going?
Did you read it?
I read most of it. I'm not going to lie. I didn't finish it yet.
Okay. I'm not going to spoil it for you guys. It's cool. It's really cool. I mean, the thing is the animation is beautiful and the story is great. And the characters are awesome. And Gyu is in there like this much. And there's some moments when you do see him and it's like, whoa, that was pretty sweet, you know? And then there's moments when he's in the movie and it's like, is that so? And that's all I say. And so I'm like, am I not going to be in this? What's happening? So yes, I did read ahead. Because I wanted to know sort of what was going to happen, and then and then of course there's some cool stuff coming. It's just going to be a while till we get to that bit. You know?
Yeah.
There's a lot of other things that need to happen. But
yeah, I mean, like he definitely gets the moment to shine.
he does. Sure. I think everyone does. Eventually.
So, I mean, there's some. Never mind, I won't spoil anything.
Don't spoil it.
No, you're right. I'm not going to spoil
anything. You haven't even read to the end, so you don't
Sorry,
even
guys.
know.
Okay, cool. So what other mangas are you reading then?
I'm not reading any other ones right now.
Okay, just Demon Slayer.
Yeah.
It's
I already read that.
Okay, cool. All right, so back.
I need to read One Piece though, but that one's too long.
Yeah.
I just expect you guys to spoil it for me. And I just constantly ask, is Sabo still alive?
So back in 2020, you actually did a little directing of your own. You directed your own short.
I did.
So Arc Exodus.
Arc Exodus, yes.
But you did a lot more than just directing. What was
Yes.
that like?
All right, so These are good questions.
Oh,
You prepared for this, didn't you? So, 2019, I was prepping about 10, 12 months for a feature-length action film. And we were going to start shooting in January 2020, so I spent so many months prepping it. A week before, you know, heading out there to film this feature-length film, action film, my lead actor bailed, and you know, things kind of fell apart. But I had already spent money towards this thing, so I was producing, I was directing, I was gonna play like a side character, and I wrote it. So I lost my lead actor, and there's like, you know, I had already quite a bit of money invested into it. And my original plan was to shoot in LA where I knew people, but the other producer wanted to shoot in Texas, and so I didn't really know anybody, but all those people had my money, so I had to like call up and be like, hey, what's going on? Things are falling apart. And I said, can you guys just hang out? And would you guys be willing to shoot something completely different, a short instead of a feature length? And they were all like, well, what is it? And I'm like, I'm writing it right now. And so basically I took a week to write a whole completely different sci-fi thing with some help of a couple friends. Yeah, so then I showed up and we shot like a totally different film. And it was a short, it's called Arc Exodus. You can watch it for free. The whole intention was to shoot a film and then just kind of let the fans watch it for free, you know, because I had done a couple Kickstarter things that were run by some other people, and then those fell through, and then I just felt bad, you know, I felt like, there's nothing there, and so I just wanted to give something. So that's what Arc Exodus was. So if you go to my studio's website, voxrocketstudio.com, then there's a link there, you can check it out, you can watch it for free. It's a 40-minute short, if you like sci-fi. There's a little bit of action in it, there's a lot of bit of action in it towards the end. But anyways, and so that won quite a few awards. For it being thrown together, I was very pleased that it won anything, but it won a lot of awards, opened a lot of doors. And yeah, so they packaged it. Now it's like I wrote 3 seasons worth. I made it into a series, and it's being pitched to various different places. But the film that I was originally going to shoot, we are 90% done. Before flying out here, I had my last night shoot. Yesterday, I was up till 5 a.m. before packing to come here. I started to post a couple things on my social media, or at least on Instagram. But yeah, so we're back on that film now. So
that's awesome. So these panels go really fast. So we're going to go ahead and start lining up for Q&A. If you can. Thank you. So if you look over here, if you guys game.
A game?
A game.
Okay.
It's called, I had so many more questions, but.
It's all right.
Okay, so it's this or that.
This or that. Okay.
Would you rather live as Vash the Stampede or as Ichigo?
Oh, gosh.
And you have to go through their trials and tribulations.
Oh my gosh, they both have to go through so much. I'd have to go with the Ichigo. Because I think, and the only reason is because he's kind of liked, I feel like. And it would just be really hard to be Vash, where everybody just kind of, they mostly hate you for the wrong reasons, you know, but.
Okay, so would you rather fight a mid-tier Hashira?
A what?
Or 2 mid-tier Hashira, so like Gyu, like the Demon
Did you just
Slayer.
call Gyu a mid-layer?
Oh wait,
Mid-tier?
no! That's not what I meant. I meant he is a Hashira. I didn't mean that he was mid-tier. They're gonna lynch me after this, man. No, but like 2 mid-tier.
Okay.
Or Muzan by yourself. Like you as a person.
Me as a person?
You have to fight either.
I think I could take him.
Okay, are we lined up? Good and ready?
Yeah, we better.
All right, let's go ahead.
Hello, thank you for coming here for doing this panel. And my question is, are you able to relate to Ichigo and Nero in any way, personally, to yourself?
Oh yeah, 100%. Every single character that I play, I have to find some way to relate to the characters, you know. Nero, there's so much more of me in that character. Again, because like I got to create whatever choices from a script. Great director. But Ichigo would be, you know, for Ichigo, for any anime, you got to find the point where it's like, now I believe this character. Now I think I can do this. And it was really just Ichigo's. It's an early episode, you know, first episode, like him wanting to protect his family and that kind of passion, you know. I could relate to that, you know, and so as soon as I found that, then I was like, I can lock into this character. So I think any voice actor, they can, or maybe others can wing it, but I think most of us have to find like something where we're like, that makes this character real for me, and then it's going to sound real for you, you know. Otherwise, we're just phoning it in. It doesn't feel right, you know. But yeah, definitely.
Cool, thank you, I appreciate it. Great answer, that makes sense.
Thank you.
Hey Johnny, welcome to Momocon 2022. We're glad to have you, man.
Thank you.
I have a question for you. As a very big fan of your work, what kind of mind state did you have to like go through when you were voicing Nero in DMC 5?
What mind state?
Yeah. What mind state what did you have to like do like mentally to like prepare yourself to
I was in Japan, you know, for 5 as well, and I remember 4 very well. But for me in that game, for 5, I would wake up every morning at 3 a.m. and I would go jogging through Japan, you know, when no one was awake, and I'd have my music on, and I would just kind of absorb where I was, and I would think about who I was as a character, and I'd think about some of the things that going on in there. The really cool thing especially about DMC 5, is that they were very flexible and comfortable with adjusting lines, and so I changed 90% of the dialogue to make it feel more like something I would say. Now they had like an original Japanese translation, which when I looked through those, I was like, this is closer to the correct Nero. And then they had a writer who was a great writer, but didn't really, I don't think really know the characters as well. Like knew some of them, but didn't feel like Nero was coming off right for me. And so I just altered all of the lines I could. And, you know, they really just, well, as long as the meaning was the same, you know, and within context, and so they allowed that flexibility and they trusted us with the characters. So yeah, I would just mentally prepare myself, and I barely slept, but you know, I felt like I was Nero while I was there.
I appreciate it, Johnny. P.S. Nero's in dead weight.
I'll show you dead weight.
So, can you hear me?
Good.
Yeah. So my question is related to sort of Adam in Power Rangers and Vash, because you mentioned those are both your earliest roles, and those are roles you got to revisit with the Ranger Anniversary and Stampede. So I was wondering if the way you approach returning to a role is different there, since Adam as a character kind of gets to grow up in real time, but Vash, it's sort of a light reboot situation. So are there any similarities in approaching those roles when you return to them?
Yeah, I wasn't an actor, I was a martial artist. So for Power Rangers, I didn't really think about the acting part of things until like they were about ready to kick us off the show. And then Trigun, I was dealing with that whole voice thing in my mind and insecurities, and I relied heavily on my director and on the source material and just trusted in that and leaned into that. But that one actually, they gave me a couple of the episodes so I can kind of watch some of it, get a sense of it, because that was the first voiceover thing. And so trying to like have some new guy like match Flaps is a really tricky thing. So coming back to them, definitely different approach. I thought about who I was as Adam and what he had, like the different times he came back, and also the comic book. There's a later, older version of Adam in an alternate timeline where he's got, you know, like his beard kind of grown out, long hair, and so I kind of based this Adam the anniversary as somewhere between that, you know, and I kind of like, so I knew who he was in that comic as an older version, and then, you know, from the beginnings, and yeah, so different approach, but I just try to pick a place where I felt like this is a different Adam, you know, he's a little more commander-ish, I guess, you know, for Vash, I didn't know what they were doing in the new. I didn't even know until the last minute that they were going to bring me back. You know, they had already like started airing, I think, and I was like, I guess I'm not in it. But yeah, I went through the original series and kind of recalled where I was in the voice. But this one is so different as far as like how it takes place, you know, and where the character is in this. And so I was able to pepper in some of the original, and you can listen to even the Japanese and the new one. You can listen to his version of the Vash laugh, and you can listen to my version of the Vash laugh. And then they allowed me to, you know, alter some lines here or there. So instead of talking about a box of, you know, a pizza box, then I changed it to donuts, you know, and so there's a little bit more of that in there. So we were allowed to pepper in original Vash whenever we could. The heart of who he is and the soul of who he is in there throughout. But you could but this was, because it was a new thing and a different thing, I got to re-experience him in a different light, you know, and it's one where I think once you get to that last episode of this new series, and if you're listening to both, you can really hear the changes in that last episode of this new series. And I can't wait to see what second season's going to be like, and if there's any similarities to the original or not, you know. But now we know where we are in the timeline of things. But it was super fun to come back, for sure.
Awesome. Thank you for the great answer.
Thank you.
Hey, Johnny. So I'm not sure if this is just theory or if it's the entire point of you and Adachi's roles in Persona 4, but theory states that you and Adachi are kind of like the yin-yang. They're like two and the same, have similarities despite their different goals. Were you like made aware of that and like played into that when voicing both of them?
No, not at all. I went in there, I only thought I was voicing Adachi, and I don't think that they even really thought about that either. It wasn't until like I was almost done with Adachi that they were like, all right, so as soon as we're wrapped up here, looks like we're going to finish early with Adachi, we'll have you go through and do the protagonist as well. And so I panicked because I didn't know I was voicing more characters. And so when I did Adachi, I just kind of let him be wherever I felt like the voice needed to be. Usually when you go into a game, you come prepared with like 5 different characters, and so you limit your voice range and you texture them up, right? But I didn't think about that because I was like, I'm just doing Adachi. So I just painted him how I thought he should be, you know, colored throughout this entire thing. But then they said, oh, also the protagonist. And I was like, what does he sound like? Similar tone. Is it the same actor? Nope. And so they said, but it's just call-outs. It's like the, you know, the protagonist, you're playing that character, so it's shouting and what it grunts. And I thought, okay, I'll just texture him up and kind of keep him in this area until there's more games, and then the anime, and it's like talking. And so I'm like, I actively have to make a choice now to change them slightly. I even, during the animation, I was like, can somebody else voice one of these characters? And they were like, nope. And so yeah, I just had to make a conscious effort then, you know, to alter them enough. So
okay, yeah, because part of the theory is because you voice both of them. So I thought you just kind of knew.
I don't think that they knew, or at least I don't think that the guys that were dubbing it knew totally at that point. The studio, the Japanese studio, might have wanted it that way. We don't really know. But what it felt like to me, and I could be totally wrong, what it felt like to me was like they were just like, okay, so we're almost done with this, you're going to voice this character now too. You know, because it's what you do in a game, they'll throw you in various different miscellaneous characters and roles. So that's what it felt like to me. And I didn't realize how important that, and how much more sense it made. It was very much yin and yang, I think, you know, eventually. So it actually did make a lot more sense that it worked out that way.
Okay, so we have 10 more minutes and,
Fast round. Okay, here we go.
Thanks a bunch. As Adachi would say, boring.
Nice.
Hey Johnny, thank you for coming. You have a great singing voice, and a while ago you...
I have a what?
Great singing voice. Like
Oh,
did
great
I
singing
Shine.
voice,
Yeah,
huh?
you did I Shine.
Yeah, my band I Shine.
Yeah.
Well, we're Where Giants Fall
Yeah.
now. So if there's our old stuff is I Shine, our new stuff is Where Giants Fall. We have stuff on YouTube.
A while ago you recorded a duet with Vic Mignogna, the first
Yeah.
Noel.
Oh yeah,
How did that-
First Noel.
Yeah, how did that come about?
He wanted to do some Christmas thing, and then I was like, sure, okay. I thought I was just doing harmonies, and so I did like this harmonies, and it was. The other thing is like, okay, so I don't know if you've ever heard my music. It's a little more grunge-ish, you know, and that, right? Yeah, and so Vic's music was much more pretty, you know, and contemporary. So like when I listened to it, I was like, I don't know if I could sing like that at all. But then I was just doing harmony for that. And then he was like, you know what? I'm just going to use your harmony voice for the second verse. And I was like, oh, really? So for me, it's a little strange to hear it because
That was great.
I don't know. It sounds like me trying to sound like Boys to Men or something. I don't
Oh,
know.
you sound great.
Thank you. It was very strange for me to hear that.
Okay, thank you so much for coming.
Yeah,
Thank you.
because when you harmonize, you could hide your voice behind the other person, you know, and you just make it whatever it needs to be, but you don't expect it to be like really heard. You expect it to be felt.
Hi.
Hi there.
Okay, so I hope I worded this correctly, but if you were in the world of Trigun and you went through everything that they went through, do you think you would feel more like Knives or more like Vash?
Oh wow, I feel like I'd be more like Vash for sure. Yeah.
Is that just because of the donuts?
The donuts help. The donuts definitely help. No, I mean that's really, you know, I mean that's where I connect to the character is the soul of, you know, the heart of who Vash is. I connect to that for sure. You know, yeah.
Cool, thank you.
Sure.
Hey, Johnny, love you. What was your reaction when you found out you were going to be the Frog Ranger in Mighty Morphin Power Rangers?
I didn't really have a problem with it. I know that I acted like I did, but I didn't. And actually, I posted this maybe a couple years ago, but the original script doesn't have anything like that. You know, the original script is she goes through it, she's like, you're the wolf, you're the this, you're the frog, you're agile and quick. Like it was just, that's all it was. But what happened was in the original movie script, my character, Adam the Black Ranger, had a ton of really cool action sequences, and my favorite part was doing action. And so the script revision came out, and all of my action beats were given to another ranger. And so I was like super bummed out about that. And the producer walked by and she's like, I know that you've seen the new changes, and I'm sorry, they complained and they had seniority over you, and we just had no choice but to change all of that. And here's a handheld TV. I was like, oh, thanks. And it broke, you know, like a weekend. And so I was a little bummed out. So when we got to that scene, I asked the director, I was like, hey, can I just be bummed? He was like, what do you mean? It's like, well, you know, look at all these, the wolf, and there's a falcon, there's like all these really cool animals, and then I'm a frog. And so I was like, maybe I could just be bummed out about having a frog. And it's like, all right, well, let's do like the script first, and then we'll try it your way. And so we played around with it, and we did it that way where I was bummed out about being a frog, and that's the one that they used. So it's totally made up on the spot.
Thank you. I always
yeah.
wondered what your reaction was when you found out.
Thanks.
Hey, what's up, Johnny?
How you doing?
Big fan of you, man.
Thank you.
My biggest question is, how do you feel about the upcoming anime projects that's about to start this year, mainly revolved around solo leveling?
Mainly what?
Mainly solo leveling. How do you feel about
Solo
this?
leveling?
Yeah.
I'm not in it.
Well, yeah. Well, you know, I know you've seen the trailer recently about that.
I saw somebody sent me a thing on it, and it looked really sweet, and it was also Korean, and I posted it about it. I was like, hey, it'd be cool to be a part of this, but I'm not in it.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's true.
It'd be awesome if they brought me into play, but you know, they could only use me so many times, I guess.
Hey, thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah.
Hi, Johnny. We'll make this fast. After being in Power Rangers once and always, how do you feel about doing future Power Ranger projects in the Hasbro era?
Always and forever. Yeah, we need to see more. I think. I mean, we were just cameo in that one, but not all of us. You know, I think they did justice for the characters that they were focusing the story on for sure, and they hinted at the whole other thing that's going on. So there's an opportunity.
Down, right?
What's that?
Your character tracking some kind of alien in.
Yeah, he's out there fighting, you know, other alien stuff. So I think there's plenty of things they could do. They could do a Power Rangers, Star Trek-ish thing if they really wanted to. If the fans want it, you know, you guys got to let them know.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So at this point, we have time for about 3 more questions. I'm really sorry, but you're doing
Are they
autographs.
kicking us out?
When are your autographs?
As soon as I'm done here.
Oh, we'll see. So, you know, rush over to autographs right after. And then don't forget to
Oh yeah, if you want one of these free weekend passes for Ranger Stop and Pop in Atlanta, I'll just hand them out right here in the front, and I'm sure they'll let me do Q&A there too.
Yeah, there you go. All right, go ahead.
Hi, I was wondering what your favorite Vash quote is.
Love and peace, of course.
Good answer. Thank you.
I do like all the laughs and stuff too.
Hi. Just one thing. Like how those martial arts movies inspired you to do martial arts, you actually inspired me to do martial arts when I was a kid. Yeah. I actually just got my black belt, so
nice.
You know, thanks to you.
Congrats. That's awesome.
If I knew, I would have brought it to get an autograph. I'll bring it tomorrow.
You don't want to sign your black belt?
I do.
You gotta wear that thing. It's gotta be on the inside then.
The other thing is, do you still watch martial arts movies?
Oh yeah.
Have you watched The Raid Redemption?
Oh, yeah.
It's the best movie to come out of my country. It's the only movie to come out of my country. But I'm just so glad to hear that you've seen it.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Of course, yeah, thank you.
Hey Johnny, Super Big Pan. My question is regarding the 1,000-Year Blood War with Bleach. A couple years back, fans had a fan project that I believe you voiced in for a little bit because they got you in.
There's somebody that sounded almost exactly
I'm
like
sorry. Somebody that sounded really close to you. Do you have any fun stories about the process of actually getting officially 1,000-Year Blood War in?
I mean, fun stories? I don't know. Well, yeah, but anyways, I don't know. So the fan thing, like somebody showed me a clip of it and I was like, that looks pretty good. And I did not know, I mean, as far as I knew, Bleach was done. And so I reached out to them, I was like, hey, so who's voicing Ichigo? Can I hop in there? And I was like, you just can't say it's me. People have figured it out though. And so yeah, it's kind of fun to come in there and do that. And then of course for it to come back, you know, officially, it was pretty awesome too. But I signed that petition and I posted, you know, because I knew, I was like, what are they doing? Why did they stop this thing? It needs to happen. You know, it was a weird place to end it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm excited for it.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, so that's actually all the time we have left. Thank you everybody for coming to the panel, and thank you for coming to join us.